I'll just tell you why I'm super excited. I've heard Howard, and I have to tell you, I'm going to have to get some tissues because last time I was crying. And I was the one who had the dogs in the back that had this crazy background, and you were like, look at the dogs. I thought it was funny. But yeah, when he was talking, I remember being in his presence, and there's no greater love. That's all I can say. So that's why I'm personally excited. So let's see if we got anybody else, and thank you so much. Okay, so if I left anyone out, Sean, just say hey to us and where you're from if you're here, Sean. Sean's, and it usually goes to our IANDS Charlotte group. Okay, so there's two Seans. It looks like Sean McDonald and Sean, another Sean.
Hello.
Okay,
Hey, can you?
That's good. Yeah, say hi.
Hey, everybody. Good morning.
Okay, and where are you from, Sean?
I'm originally from Charlotte.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I just want to say hi to Dr. Storm, too. I had a chance to read his book way back in 2008. Always stuck with
me. Fantastic. Well, thank you for being here. Well, look, you've got an idea. If I left anyone out, just can you just say hey? Because I'm trying to look from my list. But we've got 20 people. And,
hello.
Okay. Okay, Robert, I didn't see you. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
This was it. If I missed you, say hey, Robert.
Yeah. Hi. Morning. How's everyone doing?
And Robert, where are you from?
I'm just up the road here in Lake Norman.
Oh, fantastic. That's great. Yeah. Have you been to our IANDS meeting in Charlotte?
I was last year. Yeah, I met you last year. I was at one of your events.
Okay, I thought so. Okay, good. Yeah, with the pandemic, this is the safe way of doing it. But actually, I really like it because we can do it in the comfort of our homes, and we can have guests from Tokyo. So I think I really like the Zoom platform. Well, look, thank you all so much. And I just wanted Howard to feel the love from the people. Yeah, because when you do these talks, you know, I know about, they're very personal, your near-death experience, but you're giving. But I wanted you, Howard, to know that you're also, we're receiving, but so are you, that there's people that here that have a lot of love and admiration for you. And I don't know if you get to feel that much. So I just wanted you to know that. Okay, good. All right. Well, let's go ahead. I hate to read your whole, everybody, say everybody kind of knows you, but I don't want to go into your story. I want you to tell your story. So, I'm wondering how I want to, present you. I can say that you are a professor and that you were born in Massachusetts, Newton, Massachusetts. And Howard graduated from the University of California, Berkeley with, he reminded me, an MA and an MFA. And he later became an art professor for Northern Kentucky University, which he held that position 20 years. And during an interview with Unsolved Mysteries, gosh, I love that show. I wish they'd bring it back. That was so interesting. Yeah. And I love that. And also that Leonard Nimoy show too, but I love this. And so he was on Unsolved Mysteries in 1997 and reported his near-death experience. And it says where he was an atheist and aggressive person. Of course, we know he's a teddy bear now and full of the love of God. So, but Howard, he depicts his experience in the heavenly angelic realms, the Jesus realms, whatever, in his paintings, which you can see. Beautiful. I like the one where Jesus is sitting by the tree because it looked like a pasture to me too. It looked really, the colors are very vibrant. In 2000, he authored My Descent into Death, his book, which many of you have read, which chronicles his near-death experience. And he's also been on NBC's Today Show, The Oprah Winfrey Show, 48 Hours, Discovery Channel, Coast to Coast with George Norrie. And now he's here with us. I don't want to tell too much because I want him to do this. So go ahead, Howard, introducing Howard Storm, our near-death experience speaker, and you have the floor.
Okay. Well, I'm going to tell my story briefly because I really want to open it up for comments and questions and things like that. So I'm aware of the time frame and want to sort of rush through my story. And if anybody wants me to amplify on anything during that, we can do that.
We've got, okay, so we've got basically an hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But if you went over 5 minutes, I don't think that's going to, an hour 15. So we can use that time any way we want. And I feel like today with you, I want to hear your story. I really want, people to ask questions, but I have a feeling since we have an intimate group, we have 22 people, that we can be a little interactive. So if you're fine with that, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
We've got a good group of people.
Right. Okay. So my childhood was pretty fun growing up in a suburb of Boston, Massachusetts. My dad had served in World War II. He told me many times he hated every minute of it. He did not like, he was in the Navy, and it was a horrible experience. 3 years. He never saw any combat. He was in Naval Air Supply stationed in New Guinea. And when he came home, my mom said that he was completely unrecognizable, totally different person. And he brought us up under me and my two sisters, my mom, very strict military discipline. It was very, very authoritarian. And he was trying to advance in his career as New England District Sales Manager for New England District Sales Manager for General Mills Flour Division. He sold flour to bakeries, big bakeries, and he eventually advanced to the top position for the New England territory, and was working 12, 14 hours a day. Did a lot of work on the weekends, and his personality became more and more disturbing. Became very violent, very angry every day, all the time. When he came home at night, late at night from work. So although we had a happy early childhood, in our teen years, everything became very dysfunctional, extremely dysfunctional. And we'd gone to church as kids, which I liked very much because I spent my time mostly in Sunday school, and had great teachers, did lots of arts and crafts and things like that. I was baptized when I was 12 at my request, and by the time I was 15, I didn't want to go to church anymore. I just thought it was church was full of a bunch of hypocrites, most especially my own family. And my sisters had stopped going to church, just refused to go anymore, and my parents went along with that, and so we all turned away from it. And I got involved with philosophy, started off with the early philosophers like Plato and Aristotle, and got moved up into eventually to Immanuel Kant, and then the existentialists, and I became an existentialist at the age of 15. And I was very rebellious, and stopped believing in God, decided that the only truth was scientific truth. If you could measure it, see it, test it tactily, then it was true. And if you couldn't, that it was delusions, superstition, imagination. And when I was 17, I went to college, took first semester of philosophy class with a atheist philosophy professor who befriended me. I sort of became his protege, and I was convinced of my existentialist atheistic beliefs, a big follower of Jean-Paul Sartre, Albert Camus, and Martin Heidegger, etc. So my whole focus of my life was myself, pursuing my desire to be a great artist. You know, the big ambition was to have a coffee table book with my name on it and my paintings in it. You know, maybe get a painting in a big New York museum or something like that and be famous as an artist. So I went to the San Francisco Art Institute undergraduate, and then Berkeley, as you already mentioned, and immediately got a job at Northern Kentucky University as a art professor. And I got, in my third year, I got tenure, and I was department head at the age of 26 years old. was winning awards and stuff like that, and had a wife, 2 kids, a house, 2 cars. You know, life was good. I drank a lot every day. I wasn't an alcoholic, but it's just, I mean, all of my friends were all fellow faculty members, and we all drank a lot all the time. Couldn't have any fun unless, you know, we fueled it with alcohol. And inside of me, huge what I called melancholy, which very often turned to suicidal thoughts. And it's very disturbing because although I was not only achieving, but overachieving in all of my worldly ambitions and my self-image, which was of course highly inflated, seemed to be working for me. Inside, I was miserably unhappy. So that's the background. And I was very aggressive. I was a bully, a real A-type personality. And people were afraid of me, and I liked that. I wanted people to be afraid of me. Because I thought that gave me respect. That's how my father got respect, through fear. But I had social skills, so, you know, I could be polite and I could schmooze. You know, I often had lunch with the president and vice president and the dean of the university because I was one of the boys in Kentucky. I made it into the good old boy network in Kentucky. That's real important if you want to succeed in Kentucky. Y'all may know something about that, or maybe you don't. Anyhow, June 1st, 1985, I was taking a group of 8 students and my wife on a 3-week art tour of Europe. And we were on the next to the last day of the 3-week trip in Paris, France. And at 11 o'clock in the morning, I had a perforation of the duodenum, which is the small stomach. I was staying in the hotel room, trying to get the students up and going because they were being very lazy. And I fell to the ground with the most acute pain I'd ever experienced in my life, right in the center of my abdomen. And my first reaction was that I'd been shot by a bullet, which never experienced before, but I had this incredible pain, not externally, but internally in the middle of me. I realized that I hadn't heard any report of a gun, and nobody had a gun, and the window wasn't broken. So it's like, I thought, I think I've been shot, but I don't know how I've been shot. And my wife called the desk at the hotel. They called an emergency medical service. Very good doctor, very kind doctor, came quite quickly to the hotel, got me up off the floor with a great deal of effort because I was screaming, cursing, thrashing, yelling in terror. And he examined me, and he knew within minutes exactly what was wrong and told me that I had to have surgery immediately or I would die. So he called an ambulance, and they came and carried me out of the hospital, which was an interesting experience. I mean, out of the hotel, put me in the ambulance, and we had a madcap, high-speed ride through Paris at 20 minutes after 11. I went to the emergency room of the Hospital Général d'Assistance Publique de Paris, which is a big multi-block city hospital, municipal hospital, and was examined by 2 more doctors there. They said the same thing that the doctor at the hotel said, that I had to have surgery immediately or I would die, and that there was no time to waste. So they sent me off a couple blocks away to the surgical hospital, Cochin, which was named after a French general, which means pig, P-I-G. That's what Cochin translates to. So I went to the pig hospital. And I was put in a room. Unfortunately, and I'm sure that the doctors in the emergency room didn't know this, that there was no surgeon at the surgical hospital because it was a Saturday. And because of the nature of their system, the hospital let the doctors take the weekend off, and if they needed a doctor, they would make phone calls and try and get somebody to come in. I didn't know any of this. So what happened to me was, to put it in lay terms, I fell through the cracks of the hospital procedure. So I was never actually admitted because no doctor had seen me and taken me on as a patient. I was put on a bed, no blanket, no top sheet, no pillow, no nothing, and not seen by a doctor for the next 11 hours. About once an hour, the nurse would come in and say that they were trying to get a doctor. I had a roommate who was a very kind Frenchman by the name of Monsieur Fleurin, and my French wasn't that great, so he did a lot of pleading for me with the nurses, but to no avail. Every doctor I've spoken to in the United States said that my life expectancy was a few hours and that it would be a miracle if I lived 5 hours. Well, at 8:30 that night, oh, by the way, the pain, which had started off as the most acute pain I'd ever experienced, got worse and worse because what was happening was the stomach acid and bacteria and stuff was migrating throughout my abdominal cavity. So the pain was no longer a location in the center of my abdomen. It was from my groin to my shoulders. And it was very, very difficult to breathe. It was very difficult to think. Well, one of the thoughts that kept going through my head is that I thought when pain got real bad, you went unconscious. Why am I still conscious? The other thing that I was completely preoccupied with was trying to breathe, because it was, when you breathe, your diaphragm moves your whole abdomen, and every time I breathed, the pain intensified. So it was, I really had to fight to take a breath because it hurt so much. And every doctor I've spoken to said, you shouldn't have lived that long. You should have died. Because what's happening is you become septic, extremely septic. And so, nurse came in at 8:30 that night and said they were sorry they weren't able to locate a doctor and they'd try and get one the next day, Sunday. Well, I mean, I knew it was pointless. I mean, I was living from breath to breath for hours. And I had been given nothing, as in no thing, nothing, at that hospital. So, you know, there were no drugs involved or anything like that. I was just laying on a bed. I mean, you know, nobody took my blood pressure or temperature or anything, just laying there, dying. When she left, the nurse left the room, I said to my wife, it's time for us to say goodbye. And I told her I loved her and tell my parents and my sisters and my friends, my kids, that I loved them. And now I had to go. And she cried like I'd never seen anybody cry before, because she knew it was it, over. 38 years old, you know, life up until that morning had looked like really good, and now it was just game over. And I closed my eyes and immediately went, I stopped trying to breathe and I immediately went unconscious. Of course, I don't know how long I was unconscious. People ask me how long was I unconscious. Like, how would I know? I was unconscious. There was no clock in my unconsciousness. And I woke and I felt better than I'd ever felt in my whole life. And I was like amazed and happy and delighted how good I felt. And I began to check my senses and I realized that I could see, hear, taste, smell, touch, far more than I'd ever been able to in my entire life. It's like, wow, this is really great. I've not only recovered, but I'm like super recovered. Felt absolutely physically intact. I was doing sensory experiments around the room, like examining the tile floor with the bottoms of my calloused feet. And I could feel every detail of the floor. I was smelling around the room until I came to Monsieur Florent, who unfortunately had leaked somewhat in his bed, and I could smell his urine so intensely it was kind of like repulsive, which I hadn't smelled before, et cetera, et cetera. In my examination of my surroundings, I noticed that the bed that I had been in had a body in it. And when I looked carefully at the face of the body, which was turned away from me, towards my wife, was on the opposite side of the bed, sitting in a chair. I was horrified to see that it bore a remarkable resemblance to myself. But I knew that that was not possible, because you can't be standing over yourself, looking at yourself, because that's not possible. So it made me very upset that there was this thing, this dead piece of meat in my bed that resembled me, because I was not only alive, I was more alive than I've ever been in my whole life. And I began to talk to my wife. No response from her whatsoever. I didn't realize that she couldn't see me or hear me, but I didn't know that. And I got very angry at her because she was ignoring me. So I turned to Monsieur Florent, who had been so kind to both me and my wife that whole day. And I tried to talk to him, and I was screaming and yelling at him, and he just stared through me as if I wasn't there. Made me more angry, more confused. And then I heard people calling me by name in English outside the room. The room was bright and well lit with fluorescent ceiling lights. But the hallway was very gray and very fuzzy, like a really bad black and white TV picture. And I went over to the door of the room, and there was a group of people staying outside of the light of the room in the grayness. And they said, "Hurry, you've got to come with us. We've been waiting for you." And I said, "I'm sick. I'm supposed to have surgery. I need a doctor." And they said, "We know all about you. We've been waiting a long time for you, and now you've got to go." So I assumed that they were going to take me to the doctor. Although they never said that. I was the one that said that, but they seemed to understand that. So I left the room with a feeling of real hesitation, and went with these people, and they encircled me and started leading me down what I thought was the hallway of the room. And we walked and walked and walked, and the group of people were leading me right, left, front, and behind down this grayness. And the group kept getting bigger and bigger. It started off with maybe 8 or 10 people, and then, people would just keep coming into the group. So pretty soon it was a mob of people. I don't know how many, couldn't count them or anything. And their tone, which had originally been just very authoritative, started to become nasty. And then I heard little bits of conversations between them, like, "We're going to have fun with this one." Other people said things like, "He's got a cute little ass," stuff like that. I started getting very afraid of these people. If I were to replicate the journey, I would have to walk dozens and dozens of miles. This went on for a long time. One of the things that I became aware of during this walk was, like, I had lost all sense of time. Being a teacher at a university, you have to have or develop a really good sense of time, because you've got, a certain amount of time to cover, a certain amount of content with your students, and you just get good at knowing what the time is without using a watch or a clock or anything like that. I still have that sense of time. I mean, any time of the day or night, I pretty much tell you what time it is within a few minutes. And I was like, during this walk, it was like, this is crazy because there's no sense of time. And like, why am I walking? I'm sick. Although I feel good, before I couldn't even lift my head off the bed. And now here I am walking with these people, and we're just going on and on and on and on. Their tone got uglier and uglier. And the other thing that was happening was it was so subtle that I didn't notice it, that it was getting darker and darker. And finally, we were in complete darkness, just total darkness. And I was terrified. And I said to them, I'm not going with you any further. I'm going back, which was a bluff because I had absolutely no idea where I was. There were no structural landmarks that I had encountered. There were no walls, no ceiling, no stairs, just this flat plain that we walked in. And when I told them I wasn't going any further, they said, you have further to go. You're not there yet. And they started, I wouldn't move, and they started to push and pull me, and I fought back. In high school, I'd played football and had wrestled and things like that. So I knew how to both give and take in fighting. And I fought as hard as I could, as well as I could. But there were now many of them, hundreds, if not more. And they're all screaming and yelling and pushing and shoving and hitting. And I'm trying to defend myself to absolutely no avail whatsoever. And then they started scratching and biting. And then they started to invade me physically and tear me apart. And I don't like to talk about that. So moving right along, I was laying on the ground at that place, all ripped up. And much more importantly than the physical pain was the emotional, psychological pain. Because why? I mean, why is this happening? Why are they doing this to me? And one of the things that was really terrifying was that these were people. They were not demons. They were people. And I felt that they were people like me. I mean, they weren't alien to me at all. They were like the people that I knew and hung out with, and went drinking with, and that were my buddies. But they behaved in this gross manner, and I couldn't. And for what reason? What had I ever done to them? I'd never done anything to them. So I'm lying in that place, and I heard a voice. I think it might have come from me, but it was an audible voice. But I certainly didn't will it. And it said, pray to God. And I thought, I don't believe in God. I don't pray to God. And the voice said, pray to God. And I thought, I don't know how to pray. I can't pray. And the voice said, pray to God. And I thought, okay, when I was a kid and went to Sunday school, they taught us some prayers, but I don't remember them. And I'm trying to think of things that I'd memorized as a child, and I had the Pledge of Allegiance and Shakespeare and all kinds of things that I'm going through. And I remember like a couple lines, like the Lord is my shepherd, our Father who art in heaven. That just, not the whole prayer, just a couple lines. And so I said them, and the people around me became extremely angry. And they said to me in obscene language that I'd never heard such vulgarity in my entire life, that there was no God, nobody could hear me, and that if I didn't stop saying those things, they were going to do much worse things to me than they'd already done. But as they were screaming these threats at me, they were backing away and backing away and backing away from me. So for the first time in this whole experience, I had the opportunity to repel them. And eventually I realized that although I was making up these really, really coarse, awful prayers, which I would never repeat because they were they're really bad. The only thing I could hear anymore was me. I couldn't hear them breathing. I couldn't hear them yelling anything. They were. I knew they were out there somewhere in the darkness, but they were far away, out of my ability to hear them, and I assume out of their ability to hear me anymore. So I lay there and I had an opportunity to think of my situation. Since I didn't have any, at that time, any religious framework, what I thought was I had gone down the sewer pipe of the universe, down into the cesspool. When I was a kid growing up, we weren't hooked up to the city sewer. We had septic tanks, and that's where all the good stuff got processed, you know. Every once in a while, every 10 years or so, we had to have a truck come and pump it out because it got too full, but pretty disgusting stuff. But it was fascinating to a kid, the whole septic system. You know, once in a while it'd get clogged. We had to unclog it, etc. That's what I realized had happened to me. And then I thought about my life, and I realized that everything that I had deceived myself into believing about myself, that I was unique, extremely important, destined for fame and wealth and success, was all false. I realized that as a father, I had not been a very good father because I was much too busy pursuing my own career. Like, I rarely went to any of my kids' events at school because I was always too busy. You know, when they were in a play or performance or, you know, something like that. I didn't spend much time with my wife except for her to satisfy my needs. I had no relationship with my father at all. We didn't speak to each other. I hated him. He hated me, which was a big impediment to my relationship with my mother because it's hard to have any relationship with her with him around. So as a teacher, I decided that somehow I'd flunked life. The only problem is I didn't know what the curriculum was. I thought I knew what the curriculum was. I thought I knew what the purpose of life was, but down there I realized I had no idea why I'd ever been born. What was the point of me being born? And then I end up in the cesspool. It made no sense to me. But interestingly, I never considered it like punishment or unjust. It was just like, well, I never got it. I never figured it out. What I was created for in the first place. And in that state, I realized that this was my destiny, and there was seemingly no end to it, and that they had promised me that it was going to be worse, which was a pretty horrible thought. So if someone asked me to describe this place, which I've thought a lot about, of course, I would say hopeless. You know, you can't actually live in a hopeless state. I mean, when you get up in the morning, you take breathing for granted. You know, you get out of bed and gravity works and you walk on the floor and you take it for granted. You know, first thing I do in the morning when I get up is I go and pee, and, you know, feels good to relieve yourself, and I take it for granted. And then I have my coffee and take it for granted. And I mean, you know, we take all these things as we don't even think about them. There's no gratitude. It's just, this is who and what we are. And I had, now I was in a place where none of it was good. It was just all hopeless, bleak, nothing. And the people around me, I was convinced were people that lived the same kind of lives that I lived, lives without purpose, just self-centeredness, just pure egotism to the extreme. And they hadn't been, and I want to be really clear about this, they hadn't been sent to this place because they had rejected hope in a greater good and a supreme being and a God and a higher power, whatever you want to call it, and rejected what that entails, because all religions seem to share in common to do unto others as you would have them do unto you, share some kind of moral teaching, which is from on high. They had rejected that possibility, and so they were given exactly what in their hearts they desired, was a place where no rules, no restraints, but also nothing good. And it's really important because all good things come from the Creator. And if you reject the Creator, you reject the gift of life. So you end up in darkness with nothing. And that's why they live in the torment of hopelessness and express that torment through the sensation of domination of one another. And I agree with Walter Wink, who's a theologian, who says that domination is the ultimate evil, the desire to dominate, to control other people. That's the source of great evil, is that desire to dominate. And I think that that's true, and that's what I believe that they were expressing on me, their desire to dominate and control me. So basically, I was just being processed into their world. Nothing particularly unique about it. It was just that's the life that they had chosen by rejecting good, by rejecting kindness, by rejecting love, by rejecting God, however we might understand that concept of God, which nobody understands, frankly. I mean, God's beyond human understanding, but we all like to develop some kind of concept of what that might mean. And hopefully that means something greater and good behind all this. So, in my despair, my mind went back to me as a little child in Sunday school singing "Jesus Loves Me." And when I heard that, I could actually see myself as a little child sitting in a room with the other kids. And more importantly than a vivid recollection of that is that I felt as a child this sense that there was this Superman, called Jesus, who protected me. And when I was a little child, and have nightmares at night about the alligators and bears under the bed, wanting to nibble at my toes and things like that. And I would pray to Jesus and they would go away and stuff like that. So it was pretty pathetic, but that's all I had. So out of desperation, not out of faith, but out of desperation, I think there is a correlation between desperation and faith. I called out to Jesus, and to my absolute total surprise and delight, a tiny light appeared in the darkness, and it got very bright and very big rapidly and came upon me, white light, beyond anything that I've ever experienced in this world. Just to give you an example, at one period of my life, I worked as a welder, and I wore a mask because if I hadn't had that mask with that black glass in it, it would have blinded me permanently forever. It would have burned my eyes up. And the light that I saw was as brighter than the arc of welding. but it didn't burn. Actually, it was incredibly wonderful, beautiful. And out of it emerged hands and arms, and he reached down and touched me. And when he touched me, all of my gore just drifted away, and I was restored physically. And his hands went behind my back, and he picked me up without any effort. It was like, whoa, he's strong. Because he just like gently like picked me up. And much more importantly than the physical restoration was that he filled me with a love, which unfortunately been the biggest frustration of my life, is that I don't have words or the capacity to describe that love, because it's far greater than anything that we experience normally in this world, and far beyond the meanings that we give to words such as love. I'm almost reluctant to use the word love, because I mean, people, well, I love your shirt, I love your hair, you know, I love your dog, I love trees, you know, I love birds. But this is, it's way bigger than that, love, much more intense. And he held me very tightly up against himself, and he rubbed my back. And I just wanted to be in that forever and ever. And actually, it's the foundation of my entire life, is to be in his arms and to be loved. And I noticed that we were leaving by going directly upward. And if you've ever been in a helicopter ride, you know, 1 minute you're on the ground and then the next minute you're not on the ground. You're like, whoa, I'm looking down and the ground's going away. You don't, I mean, in a helicopter, you don't have a sense like in a plane of lifting off. You just do. And so I'm crying out of joy, holding on to him real tight because I'm afraid he might drop me, which of course is ridiculous because he wasn't going to drop me, but I was hanging on real tight to him and he had his arms around me. And we're moving, and I get the sense that we're going faster and faster and faster. And so I'm trying to get my composure to look at where we're headed. And when I do, I look up and I see what at first I think is a galaxy of light, of stars. But then I realize they're not stars. There's countless billions, trillions of light beings, like the one who's carrying me. And there's a great concentration of them. And then all of a sudden, like, I get this big realization. That's where God lives. That's God's home. And the God that I had told all my adult life doesn't exist, is a figment of imagination, and mocked and ridiculed people openly who believed in that stuff, including my students and other people. But in our society, it's pretty acceptable to be a atheist. It's pretty acceptable to bash Christians openly. And at the university, nobody ever had any problem with me doing that, because lots of faculty did it. I mean, we all thought our job was to educate the students and knock that nonsense out of their head and make them like ourselves, which was materialistic. That was our religion, materialism, scientific truth, life's short and ugly, and dog eat dog world, and the biggest, baddest bear in the woods wins, etc. You know. So I thought to myself, he's made a terrible mistake. I don't belong here. He should put me back. Because I felt so ashamed. I felt like something filthy. And he stopped our movement into the galaxy, and he spoke to me for the first time telepathically, but in his own voice. And he said, we don't make mistakes. You do belong here. And I thought, how did he know I thought that? Because I didn't say it. And he said to me, in my mind, I know everything you've ever thought. And I thought, there's lots of things that I've thought that I don't want you to know that I've thought. And I began to think of the things that I didn't want him to know that I'd thought about. And he started laughing really hard, because it took me a while to get it, but it's the absurdity of not wanting him to know the things that I was thinking about by thinking about the very things that I didn't want him to know I was thinking about. You know, I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. He just found that very funny. It took me a while to get the joke, and it made me very relaxed to hear him laugh, because I didn't know anything about him. You know, I mean, he was a complete stranger to me, except that he loved me. But I didn't know what that meant. And we began to converse, and then he told me that he had people that he wanted me to meet, and that they had been with me during my life and had recorded my life. So henceforth, I refer to that group of people that he called over to us as my angels. And we all have a team of angels. You know, there's a belief that we might have a guardian angel. We don't have a guardian angel. We all have a team of angels. And they have different positions and different gifts and different responsibilities, and they come and go. But so my team of angels came over, and they proceeded to show me my life from when I was born up into the present. Childhood was lots of fun, and then later on, as I became more self-centered and manipulative and uncaring about other people's needs or feelings, they shared their disappointment, great disappointment, with what I was doing with my life. They never reproached me. They just shared that they were so unhappy with seeing what I was doing. Many times during my life review, I said, I don't want to see anymore. I don't like it. I don't need to see this. And they said, you must see it. It's very important that you see this. And when it came to an end, I was really happy. I can summarize what I learned from my life review. We were born to be compassionate, to care about one another. We're not little isolated events in this universe. We are here to love one another, to care for one another, to be kind and caring, and to literally put other people's needs and interests ahead of our own. That's it. It's real simple. A lot of people know that all over the world, and some people don't get it at all. I don't know why. When we were done, Jesus said to me, do you have any questions? And I said, I have a million questions. He said, ask me. So I asked him everything that I could think of. When people asked me, how long did that go on? I said, much longer than it took me to go through graduate school, which was 3.5 years. I learned a lot because of my ignorance about higher things. There are a lot of good questions. Whenever I talk to Catholic groups, they always ask me, did you ask about the Virgin Mary? I said, no, I didn't ask about the Virgin Mary. You know, but I did ask a lot of good questions. And I recall it all as if it all happened yesterday. So the weird thing about near-death experiences is that it never fades. Like if you ask me what did I dream last night, honestly, I don't remember what I dreamt last night. I really don't remember any dreams I've ever had. They all fade away. Matter of fact, I don't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday. I don't remember a lot of stuff. But the near-death experience, when I tell it, I have to distance myself from it because it's so emotionally intense for me that when I first started telling my story, it was mostly weeping with a little bit of talk. And after doing this many, many times, I've learned to sort of detach myself emotionally from telling it because it's not fun for me to relive it too intensely. So when I exhausted all of my questions, Jesus gave me the bad news, which was that I needed to come back here and give life another try in a different way, in the way that I had been created to live in the first place, and which is caring about other people. And I had a big argument with him, and I argued as forcefully as possible to let me go on to be a part of heaven, which he had given me a tour of. And he defeated all my arguments with rational, kind, patient reasons why it was better for me. And the bottom line is that unless you've got some love going on inside of you, you are not going to fit in to heaven. Unloving people, not only do they not want to be there, they just couldn't be there. They'd be miserable there. And so that's why this other place, it's the alternative to heaven. And I don't believe that they're sent there. I believe that they have chosen it. Everything we do, we're given this great gift called free will, and everything we do is a choice. And some people are raised in difficult circumstances that limit their choices. And some people, fortunately, get to see a better way to be human. So I finally agreed to come back, and when I agreed to that, I was back. No transition, back in the pain, back in the bed. And immediately when I was back, it was now about 9 o'clock, the nurse who had been in the room at 8:30 came back into the room, and she said, a doctor is coming to the hospital and you're going to have your surgery. They evicted my wife from the room and they prepped me for surgery. And then I had that surgery at 10 o'clock that night. And I'll conclude my narration, my testimony with, when I woke from the surgery the next day, I knew that the most important thing that had ever happened to me in my life, other than being born, was this. I knew that I was going to have to make a lot of changes in my life, and I didn't know what those would be. And I didn't know where to begin, because I'd spent 38 years of my life building a character, building a personality. And now this was saying, you need to re-examine it and remake yourself in a new way. I've made plenty of mistakes along the way. Big disappointment was I thought I'd come back a saint, and I ain't no saint. I'm a man, I'm a regular human being, flawed. But the good thing is that I'm learning and I'm trying and I'm making my little progress minute by minute, day by day. And I think I've done some good in the world, and I've tried not to do any harm. It's been an interesting experience trying to learn how to be a part of it. I started going to church, and I loved it because I saw a bunch of fools like me seeking truth. And it's the only place. I was a university professor, but I saw the church as really striving for a higher truth than what. I mean, education's great. Being a professor is great. Giving people skills and knowledge is great. But I saw the church as a different kind of striving towards a higher truth. And I became very active in the church, and decided that that's what I wanted to do with my life. So after a couple of years, I left the university and went to seminary for 3.5 more years to get my Master's of Divinity. And I became a pastor, and I did that for 30 years. And a few months ago, I retired because I'm old and weary and want to do the things, because I don't have. I'm at 73. How much life do I have left? I want to paint. I want to play with my grandchildren. I want to snuggle my doggy a whole lot, which he likes a lot. He's really into snuggling and being loved and giving his love. I want to, I'm a big flower gardener, and I want to take care of my flowers. Constant battle with the weeds. watering and fertilizing, killing and stuff like that. I want to be with my wife. I want to see my friends. It's good not to have a job, because now I can do whatever I want to do when I want to do it. And I am having fun. It's the best part of my life, other than my body betraying me with aches and pains and weakness. I'm having the best life I could possibly have. It's just great. I love it.
Howard, we are so glad that Jesus made that decision to bring you back, because you were really a delight. Wow. Before we open this up for questions, and when I do, you guys, you see the chat box. Go ahead. When I say now, then go ahead and be thinking about what your questions will be, because here's the thing. Some people may have the same question, and that way we can get more done. I do want to talk real quick before we open it up for questions. And matter of fact, I'm so glad I didn't show myself. I told you I had to get a tissue. I'm sitting here crying like crazy over you talking about, because I remember, I can't explain the law. It's not human. If I talk about it, I'll start acting, blubbery and start crying. Yeah, it's good stuff. That's all I can say. It's good stuff. So tell me, I know that one thing about near-death experiencers, and a lot of things that people might not understand, and I would like to speak about it, is that experience is not like, when you have, your 16th birthday party and you remember it and it's a memory. The near-death experience, like for me and many near-death experiencers, it's so alive, it's so vivid, and it's almost like it is intense, but it's not in the past. It's still a part of you, and we still have, I feel, a portal to that side. We really closed it, and so it's living within us. So I want to talk about a couple things, because this is going to be really cool. Y'all want to hear about this. I want to talk about your paintings and about how, because see, it's still interactive. We didn't shut the door on that. And about messages you get through your art, and also the messages you get from Jesus and your accepting God.
I'm not going away. I'm going to show you something.
Okay, cool.
I just did this. It's a commission. Can you see it?
Wow. Okay. Now what? It's the turn it around a little bit to the light.
Oh, yeah.
Here. Okay. So walk us through this.
It's Jesus calming the sea. He's in the boat. There's one of his disciples cowering because they think they're going to die because the ship is being swamped in this storm. And they wake him up. He's sleeping through the whole thing. They wake him up, and he just takes control of the elements and stops the storm and turns it into a beautiful day. So there he is, reaching up into the sky, because he's the master of the sky and master of the elements. I just finished this week.
Howard, that is beautiful. How long did it take you?
3 weeks.
Oh, wow. Well, see, that's what I mean. He's speaking to you. It's funny, when near-death experiencers come back, you do have after effects, and I think it's part of that communication, and people get it in different forms. It's funny you mentioned the storm, because I have a whole thing on a channel. It says about the storm, and other people are getting it too, about the storm, and there's peace in the storm, and God is in control, and Jesus is in control, and I have a whole thing on that, but other people are getting it too, and you just got a painting. I guess just to say, hey, it's going to be cool, it's all going to be okay. So let's talk about your painting and how I want to talk about it real quick, and then we'll move on to other stuff, but because you're an amazing artist, but how your painting, your style of painting and your perception of the world. I mean, obviously we have a pretty good idea, but when you came back and you talked about some of the changes that you did make, but your art, did it change? And do you receive just the art? Like, this is definitely communication. I totally received that. That's beautiful. But is it just through the art, or do you get other messages? How is that experience affecting you right now today in a personal way?
Well, before my experience, to make a piece of art, you had to have some kind of inspiration, like an idea or a concept that you want to get across. And then I would struggle to make that. Now, I don't do anything until I am really inspired. And when the word inspired means in spirit,
Right.
and so when I paint, I go into the spirit and let the spirit guide me. And it just makes my painting very happy experience. I like the best analogy I can use, it's like a dance. And the spirit and I are dancing, but rather than moving, well, I'm actually moving my body because I'm doing something physical, but I'm letting the spirit kind of guide me in what I'm doing. And we don't make too many mistakes. I try not to step on the spirit's toes, you know, like I let the spirit lead and I follow. And I'm constantly amazed. You know, my wife, who's the only one around, when I'm doing my work, you know, I'll call her and say, "You got to come and see this because I just did the most amazing thing," you know. And I said, "Oh, you know," I was like, "Look at this! Is just totally inspired to do this. Totally. I mean, the spirit just, you know, led me to do this and stuff like that." And she's like, "Oh, that's so cool. That's like unlike anything you've ever done before." And it's just so. I want to do that with everything in my life. I mean, in my relationships with people and how I interact with my grandchildren and how I treat my wife. And I do a lot of gardening, and part of it includes, I'm really into stone walls. I love building stone walls. So that's what I was doing this morning. I got up at 5 a.m. and I was out there at 6:30 working on a stone wall. And the spirit was telling me which stones and how to lay them, and you know, what not to do, what risk not to take, and what would work. And it's a wonderful way to live, living in the spirit, which is, I believe, the spirit of God, the spirit of Christ, the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it. You know, all those labels, but we just call it spirit, and living in spirit. And I'm blessed. I mean, the thing is that I'm not wealthy. I mean, I wish I were. I mean, I would like to be wealthy, but I'm not. But you know, we get by, we do all right, you know, we have a good life. But the quality of my life is like, that's why I want everybody to know God, because the quality of my life is like, blessed. The word bless means bliss. Bless and bliss are the same words. One with an E, one with an I. They mean the exact same thing. It means extreme happiness. And I live in a blessed life, a blessed state.
Well, you know, I couldn't agree more with you because, you know, you know, talking about that force, I say the force, you know, not just Christ, but God, that love, that, you know, it makes you examine, you know, even you can have a life review now a little bit if you wanted to go, wow, you know, what could I change? I think the biggest thing is when we get ourselves out of the way, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
we just, you know, connect. I say we're all connected, you know, we just need to, like a hard drive, connect to God, whatever you think God is, and just let that, you say the spirit, I say, you know, team God, there's a big team, and just, you know, and follow that. It seems so foreign to this world, but I can tell you the same thing is true. When I do that, it goes so well when I get out of the way.
Yeah.
So, well, look, let's open it up for questions, guys. Start sending your questions in the chat box, and I want to start taking some questions. Okay, here we go. Okay, we got some already. Oh, terrific. Okay, let me scan through them for a moment. Oh, okay. Here's some here. Okay, of course, Sean, the deep guy, Sean the deep McDowell guy. He wants to know if Howard could talk about what he was shown about intelligent life on other worlds, and I'll pick your second one up later because someone else has it. So let's start with that.
I asked. Jesus told me that the universe was full of life, full of intelligent life. And I said, what do they look like? And he said, I'll show you. So he paraded a parade of beings from other worlds in front of me. And they started off and they looked like humans. And then like their ears would get longer, or their necks would get thinner, or their arms would grow, or they'd have fewer things, whatever. They started getting a little weird. And then, but they were all looking at me and smiling at me. They were images. They weren't the real beings, but they all looked pretty friendly. And then they started getting more like in Star Wars movies, like in the cantina scenes and stuff like that.
Yes.
Things that had like octopus heads and insect legs and things like that. And I was getting a little weirded out because these were intelligent beings, but they were very strange. And I said, okay, I get it. All kinds, all shapes, you know, that's enough. I don't want to see anymore. He said, okay, fine. So we talked about life on other planets, and he told me that most of the beings, intelligent beings, have evolved to a place where they live in complete synchrony with God, in complete harmony with God. And so their worlds are full of peace and prosperity and joy. But we are this planet Earth, we are a low planet, and we have a long way to go. And God is getting pretty frustrated because God has been speaking to humanity for many thousands of years, and everybody. And if I can put this, the Spirit of Christ, which is a term for the activity of God in this world, has been speaking to all people everywhere from the beginning of human consciousness. And the question is, have we been listening, or have we been turning away from it? And unfortunately, a lot of good people in the world, a lot of good people who are really great people, wonderful people, but there's also another spirit in this world which is opposed to God and opposed to love and opposed to kindness. As I talked about earlier, the spirit of domination and conquest and control. And they've been having their sway. And okay, my experience happened in 1985, and I want to see a radical transformation of this world into a world of peace and love. And I'm not seeing it. And I'm getting very upset because grow up. You know, I have a 5-year-old grandson. I've got 10 grandchildren. And my 5-year-old grandson, wonderful. I love him. He's great. He's also can be a selfish pain in the ass, you know, because he's 5 years old. He's fine. And, you know, developmentally, emotionally, he's just where he should be. If he doesn't get his way, he throws a temper tantrum. If he gets frustrated, he cries and whines and stuff like that. You know, he's fine. But when you see adults behaving that way, it's like, really? Seriously? And when you see people being mean to each other, and right now we're going through a whole big thing about racism in our study, which is like, you know, when I was a kid in the 50s and in the 60s, we were fighting racism, and it's still going on. And you know, and I know that we have lots of people that they don't say it so openly, but it's still in their heart. You know, and it's like, you know, and it comes up in subtle ways, you know, but those ways aren't so subtle that they are still ultimately harmful because they put other people down. I've been in Asia, I've been in Africa, I've been in the Middle East, I've been in Europe, all over the world, and you know what? People are beautiful and wonderful just as they are. I was in Kenya this year for a few weeks, and I fell in love with the African people. I told my wife we should move to Kenya, except the only problem is all our family's here. So if we went to Kenya, we'd never see our grandkids, and that's not good, because I love seeing my grandkids, and I feel a responsibility to my family. And so I felt the same way in China. You know, I love the French. I love the Danes. I mean, everywhere I go, I meet beautiful, wonderful people. It's like this whole judging people based on, and you know, the irony is there is no such thing as races. We're all one race. It's a human race, and the differences between us are like a couple tiny bitty little chromosomes, you know?
Absolutely. Hey, Howard, can you fix your computer when you did the bamming thing, which I totally understand?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oops.
No, you're back. No, I totally understand that. When I came back, well, when I was over there, Jesus and I talked too, and I was 5 and died of pneumonia, but he told me he wanted to bring heaven to earth. I mean, it's right in the Lord.
Yes. Amen.
And he told me he needed help with that. He told me what he wanted to do, and he gave me my thing. And I argued. I was like, I don't know. That seems like a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, how does he work with people that are paying the butt? Because I was like, seems like a lot of work. And he laughed and he said, well, you won't be the only one. But what he told me a couple weeks ago, and I was like, it's amazing. This is so beautiful and so simple. Be the love you were created to be.
Yep.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah. He said something similar to me, which I think is essentially the same thing. I asked him, this is when I was arguing with him about coming back. I said, what do you want me to do if I come back? And before he could answer, I told him, I'm going to build you a shrine, a big, crazy shrine. I'm going to buy some land out in the country, and I'm going to build this big, phantasmagorical shrine to you. And he said, please don't do that. And I said, what do you mean don't do that? He said, I don't need it. I don't want it. You know, I don't need shrines. I don't need anything. What I want you to do is to love the person that you're with. And I said, okay, great, got it. But what do you want me to do? And he said, no, that's what I want you to do, is love the person you're with. And I said, well, that's not going to do any good. And he said, if you do that, it'll change the world. And I said, no, it won't. I'm giving you a verbatim on the conversation. I said, listen, loving someone, you know, is going to change the world. I mean, like, you know, then he said, no, if you love someone, they'll get it. And then they'll take that experience of love and they'll share that with somebody else. And then they'll share that, you know, with somebody else. And the whole world will be changed. And I said, it's never going to happen. I at the time I said there's 6 billion people on the world, and like a few people going around being loving isn't going to make any difference. And he said, no, there's millions of them all over the world. There's millions of people who are spreading the love. And I said, not enough. Now with 6 billion, with a few million, you know, what good will it do? And he said, no, it's going to work. And I said, it won't work. And he said, got billions of angels. Billions of angels are in this. And I said, millions of people, billions of angels, not enough to change the world. It's not going to make it. So then he says to me, this is the showstopper. He said, it's God's plan.
Oh, that is a showstopper. Yeah, well, what do you
And it's like that, like, I couldn't think of any smart aleck thing to say to that. You know, when someone pulls out it's God's plan, it's like, dang, you know, what do I do now? You know, and you know, so that's what I've been working on for 35 years since my experience, is how to love the person that I'm with.
Yeah, I think that's powerful. What you mentioned, he had something similar. I argued like you, and it's funny because when you think of people that had an experience, just regular people have an experience, you know, with Jesus. And I argued. I mean, I'm like, I was a pain in the butt. I argued about coming back. Same thing, but he said that my mother, I needed to show her love, and I said, why? She'll be fine. I want to stay here.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it is really about the love, be love, receive love, and give love. So, it sounds like a Beatles song, but that seems to be the plan. We got some other questions here. Okay. So people are very concerned about this time. If you want to talk about time as you see it, and I know that I didn't see any time over there. It seemed like one day was like 10 years. So talk about time, and also want to talk about, if you want to, about, you've heard of multiverses, about different, when I was over there, I saw different dimensions layered on top of one another while I was in present time, but saw different ones. So tell me your thoughts on that, and let's just talk about time, dimensions, and then based on our reality as we see it.
Okay. What Jesus gave me to understand was this world was created with fundamental laws of the physical universe. And one of those things is, you know, the whole idea of energy, matter, time, and space. It's all quite consistent, and it doesn't vary. You know, it ultimately, and we're beginning to get a concept of it, and it's only been in the last few hundred years, really, and we've got a long way to go. For example, we now know that 97% of the universe as we know it is made up of dark energy and dark matter, and we only know 3% of what the physical universe is made of. So we've got a long way to go to our understanding. But time is a concept that we've been given that works pretty well for us. Mm-hmm. But time is not, it's a construct. Like matter is a construct, it's a created thing. When we go into our spiritual life, we move beyond gravity, we move beyond time and space, we move beyond limitations. For example, Jesus told me that in heaven you can go anywhere in any time instantly by will. So, you know, if you want to go back and see the dinosaurs, you can go see the dinosaurs. If you want to go to a galaxy on the other side of the universe, you know, billions of light years away from us, you can just go there and be a part of it if you want to. The whole law of physics that we believe is the absolute structure of the universe, it just happens to be the structure of, and Jesus used this term, this world is nursery school. You know, in nursery school, you don't cover the floor with broken glass because people would get hurt. You know, in this world, we have these laws of physics which make us safe, which we can understand. And if you obey them, you don't drop rocks on your feet and break your feet. You know, you don't give children, you know, knives to play with. You know, you don't try and stay underwater too long because you can't breathe it. You know, I mean, you learn the laws of physics, hopefully, as you grow up, you know.
So let me ask you this. There's you know, debate about different heavens, you know, like different layers of heaven. I know I always look at it like, okay, there's the Mother Teresa heaven, and there's like, you're a heathen, and the last second you go, help me. You know, and
well, people come up with like these arbitrary numbers, like 3 levels of heaven and 9 levels of heaven.
Yeah.
There's unlimited levels of heaven, unlimited. And we go into the level that's appropriate for our state of physical development. And I mean, you've all heard this, but we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. Personally, I'm a little tired of the meat suit, ready to change, to give up the meat suit. But, you know, as long as I'm in the meat suit, I try to take care of the meat suit to some degree. But I am a spiritual being. You are, we all are. And when we go to heaven, we go where our spirit fits in. The interesting thing is, since there's no time in heaven and no limitation in heaven, God's not impatient with our development. God loves us just the way we are. So if we're like a little sort of baby learner, you know, we go to the baby level. And if we're, you know, and even the people that have rejected God, God's hope is that they're going to wake up. Mm-hmm. This is how I consider it. I consider it waking up. Waking up to God, waking up to the mystery, which the word mystery means unspeakable, unknowable, waking up to the mystery and accepting it and living within the mystery, as opposed to thinking there is no mystery, or as opposed to thinking that we are the conqueror of the mystery. I live in a huge state of unknowing. You know, as Zen Buddhists say, he who knows does not say, and he who says does not know. You know, kind of contrary to being a college professor, but because we're always saying stuff that we think we know. But I live in a state of knowing my unknowing and accepting it.
Well, let me ask you this, Howard. I know that we're a little over, but if you guys are okay, I just want to go a little bit over. Are you cool with that? Say yes or no. Yay. Yes, good. Yes, please, more Howard. Okay, so I want to talk about in terms of this, I mean, I actually, in that hellish state, or that unlikable, that just bleak state, I personally asked about this, Jesus, because I thought, what is up with that? And he actually responded to me. I didn't expect a thing, but I want to hear what you feel that is, or this state of hopelessness and so forth, that this dimension.
Well, I want to answer on two levels. One is on a simple level, another a more theological level. We generally don't believe in corporal punishment of children anymore. Although I was beaten a lot as a child. I don't beat my kids, and I certainly wouldn't even dream of beating my grandchildren or anything, nor would their parents anymore. So what we do is we use isolation. You know, it's called by yourself time. You know, go sit in the corner, go to your room. You know, if you're not going to behave, you can't, you know, interact anymore. That's what it is. It's time for them, you know, to you know, rethink what they're doing with their lives. Or to put it in theological terms, God does not punish anyone, and God doesn't send people to prison, to jail, to hell. It's what they've chosen by their rejection, and God's hope is that they'll get out. Now, the Bible clearly states that Jesus went to hell and released prisoners from hell. It's in 2 Peter. And it's also in the Apostles' Creed that he descended into, on the third day, he descended into hell. And Christians talk about eternal punishment, eternal torment. The word eternal never, N-E-V-E-R, appears in the Bible. That's a mistranslation of the Hebrew and the Greek, which means for a period of time. So,
well, what I got on that I asked, you know, what is this, you know, and I asked, well, God didn't punish. And in a dream, Jesus came to me, and it was 3 months later, and he said that people that are sick in their minds go to places that other people that are, because that's where their mindset is. And he said, so the perverts go with the perverts, and the whatever go with, and the murders. But he says, I offer my love every day. He says, but a lot of them don't want to. They don't accept it. He said, I offer my love, and he says, but they want to play this weird game. He says, so I have to separate them. He said, but he doesn't want it like that. But
they get to experience what they have subjected other people to. And you know what? That sooner or later they're going to, you know, get tired of that. You know, they're going to realize that being sadistic is no fun, and being masochistic is no fun.
Well, you know, it's funny because, you know, I was not raised very religious, maybe a little bit Presbyterian, but I don't know. We all come from somewhere, but you know, I know that I have a Catholic friend, and she talks about praying for people that blah blah blah. And it's funny, in the South, when someone's on their deathbed, we run like, you know, into the hospital room trying to get them to accept Jesus. But when I realized, you know, because I can talk to people that have crossed over, and I see the heaven, and yes, animals are in heaven and people are in heaven. I saw them there. But anyway, that, you know, that sometimes that they are depressed or they're in a bad state, but it's never too late. I always, you know what I mean, to be kind.
To be biblical for a second, the Bible says in 4 different places, anyone who calls upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. Yeah. And I understand that is like, since Jesus's name was not Jesus.
Yeshua.
Yeah, his name was Yeshua. You know, when we call upon the name of the Lord, it's as we understand it, as they say in AA, you know, our higher power. You know, when Bill developed the AA program, he realized so many people have been burned out by religion that people needed to use a different expression for God. And they, whatever your higher power is, when you call upon it, the higher power responds.
Well, that he did. I haven't seen where he doesn't answer immediately when people, you know, when you're in that kind of situation. Your people have got some good questions. So Oh gosh. So those creepy alien looking things that look like giraffes and whatever, you're like, okay, I'm done with that. Did they used to be humans, and are we like
No.
a form of evolution, or are they entirely something? Do we spiritually
Different.
have to go through this human thing before we go to higher realms, or how did you see?
No, they were not. They had never been humans, and they haven't evolved into being human. Is not the highest form. Being human is nothing compared to being a spiritual being. The spiritual body is so glorious, it's unbelievable.
Right, no pain, total freedom. Let's see. Okay, so we answered that one. People are curious about your colleagues. He said, did you, when you came back and you're different, your colleagues in the past, did they accept you? Did they, or are they still?
Just the opposite. It was an extremely disappointing experience. I didn't get to tell, they didn't want to hear it, so I never got to tell them. I told my best friend my experience. He walked, after I told him my experience, this is when I was recuperating. I was very sick. I was sick for a long time after the experience.
Wow.
He walked out the door and he never spoke to me again. My best friend, his name was David. All of my colleagues, all of my colleagues treated me like I was a leper in the Bible. They wanted nothing to do with it. And people would tell me, well, you had some kind of drug trip when you were in Europe, but when are you going to get over it? They used to call me a Christer, which was a derisive term, for an idiot who lost their mind, because the word had gotten out that I was going to church and reading the Bible and stuff, and so they all dismissed me as a complete idiot.
That's sad. So do you pray for those people?
Yeah.
I know, because they just don't see it. They don't know. Let's see. Okay, question. Some people wanted to know, the people that guided you away from the hospital, they said they're not demons, but are they human? Could they be like a darker thing working through these people, or are they just crappy people? What do you explain that? Because definition.
God don't make no crappy people.
Okay, so maybe
everybody's good. Everybody's got good in them, but for everyone has their own unique reason. They've allowed themselves to be influenced by evil, and I very much believe in not demonic possession. That's very rare, but I do believe in demonic oppression, where people. Jealousy, greed, lust, anger, drunkenness, narcotics, those things, we invite demonic influences in our lives. And of course, the demonic influences are always promising us that we're going to get everything we want and happiness and stuff like that. And they deliver just the opposite.
Okay, good. I'll go with that. And I do see a tremendous amount of demonic oppression, and I have seen possession. It's horrible. Okay, let's see. So someone asked you, well, would your NDE experience, Bobby Jesus, have been a little different if you're raised Muslim or Hindu? And I don't know if that's going to be kind of hard to answer, because you're not, but
yeah.
You have thoughts on that?
I think that there's a lot of good, and I've tried to study to some degree the major world religions, and there's a lot of good in them. I would like to rely upon Mother Teresa for my answer when she was asked that question about the religions in India.
Right.
And I'm quoting her now. She said, "I love all religions, but I love my own the best."
Oh, that makes sense. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's a personal journey. Is there any, okay, so a lot of people want to know, are you talking to Jesus now? I'm like, hello, look at his paintings. What do you think? God, really? Really?
No.
I mean, you think that was just a one-time conversation? See you later. Okay. I'm sorry, I have to be facetious on that, because we know God's working through you. And so talk about that, and about how Jesus talks to you now in your life. And any comments about how people are acting crazy these days. I mean, I'm like, Lord, what in the world? It's like you're like a bunch of children misbehaving, burning stuff up, and people acting crazy. I don't know.
when I was arguing with Jesus about coming back, I said, I can't live without you. And he said, don't you understand? After all, I've tried to teach you and show you that I've always been with you and I always will be with you. And I said, well, when I go back, will I see you? Will I hear you? Will I touch you? And he said, no. It'll be like before. You won't see me, you won't hear me, you won't touch me, but I'm there. I'm right there. And I said, but if I can't see you, touch you, and feel you, like, I won't believe you're there. And he said, you'll know I'm there because I'm right with you. I'm in you. Talk to me, listen to me. And so we talk all day long, but it's not Charlton Heston in the Ten Commandments going, oh Lord, steer to the left. You're drifting to the right on the highway. I mean, it's not like that. It's more like it's an inner voice. It's a heart voice. I have audibly heard God speak to me since my experience. I have had physical experiences with Jesus since, but overwhelmingly, my life is being guided by his Spirit. How do I know his Spirit? Well, I'll give you two ways. One, it's got to be consistent with the Gospels. If it doesn't sound and feel like the Jesus in the Gospel, it ain't Jesus. It's someone trying to trick me, and those are not good guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm real aware of, because they've had their shots at me. Believe me.
Oh, I'm sure.
And also, I just get that I get that love and feeling. And so, one of the biggest challenges in my life was, as a guy, I was told as a young man to have no interest in my feelings. It's like when you play football, pain is good. Play through the pain. Like don't think about how you feel. That's an advantage that women have had in society. Is women have been encouraged to be a little more intuitive and to be more in touch with their feelings. We have to listen to our gut. We have to, I know it's sort of a vulgar term, the gut, but our stomach is actually a thinking organ, and it's attached to our brain and our gut. It's all one big entity, and we have to listen to, and you can feel it. And I tell people, how do you feel about that? When you hear a voice, or you get a sensation of danger, what are you feeling? When you're attracted to someone, what are you feeling? I have to be careful because I'm attracted to everybody. No. After my experience, I tried to kiss and hug everybody. I would sick in the hospital, critical condition, IVs. I would reach up out of bed and grab people and embrace them and kiss them on the mouth. They did not like it. They were horrified.
Right.
And it took me months to figure out that people don't want to be hugged and kissed on the mouth. I mean, this is before I even know who they are. Total strangers.
Well,
So I can't do that anymore. And it really bugs me because that's what I want to do. I can't.
Well,
now I can't touch anybody.
Well, I don't know. You're from the South too. You can just tell them you're a hugger. I mean, I like grabbing on people, and it makes me feel like a pervert in this world. But I guess it's that nurturing part of me because we are all connected. I don't really care what the person looks like.
I'm an old man, so now I'm just a dirty old man because I want to.
Yeah, you have to be careful these days. People read things into it.
Yeah.
Someone does want to know about what is the voice of Jesus, and I do want to also acknowledge what you said and reiterate that for people about when Howard's talking about your gut, or if you get a feeling of danger. Some people freak out like, oh my God, my chest, it feels. I'm like, okay, well, maybe that's God trying to tell you, like, don't get involved with those people, or don't go there. Right. Don't make a big deal out of it. Just like, oh, thanks.
One way to love certain people is to give them a lot of space and leave them alone because they are not open to it at this point. I've done a bunch of prison ministry, and frankly, initially I was afraid. And when after spending a week with I spent a week with the guys in a maximum security prison in Ohio.
Wow.
At the end of the week, we were all hugging and kissing each other and telling each other how much we loved each other. I came home and I told her, she said, how was it? Because I've been gone for a week at this prison. And I said, I love those guys. I really love them. And she said, those are bad people. Why do you say that you love them? And I said, no, they're really good people. I love them so much. And they love me. And my wife was like, you're crazy. No, they're good. It just takes a while to get through the barriers, because they put up plenty of barriers when I first went into. I was scared of them and they were scared of me.
Well, the thing is, they've probably been judged so much and thought you might be there to judge them. But,
yeah.
I think that the goodness of God is in everyone, even if it's just a small amount. And
Yep.
people have not been acknowledged and shown love in this world.
Right.
And you can see that if you go out to eat at a restaurant, well, before the COVID, and just thank someone, thank the waiter, thank the,
Oh, yeah.
and they're like, oh, they thank me. I mean, they're just they're not even acknowledged, or just to look in someone's eyes and go, how are you? It sometimes shocks them.
I mean, I tell people, the baggers at the grocery store wear name tags.
Yeah.
Use their name.
Oh, yes, of course.
How you doing, Tiffany? How's it going?
Yeah.
Right?
But it's these little things that you're talking about that I do believe that Jesus talks about the love. It's just when you see someone, instead of, oh, there's the banker person, that's the restaurant, just to engage them like they're as a child of God, an important person, each person. And I always say, if you look hard enough in someone's eyes, you can see God. So
Yeah.
I wanted to, there are some questions about when you were in that state in Jesus, did you go, talk about where you went? Because a lot of people are asking about, did you see people that died or animals, and and if you did, were they all like really young and hot looking? Or what would they look? People want to know, what age did they look good?
Oh, the people in heaven? Yeah. Oh, they're so beautiful beyond words, because see, the big difference is that we're heavy and opaque and very limited. In our spiritual bodies, we emit light, and we're not transparent, but we're translucent, and light gives and we can take any appearance we want in heaven.
Right.
But the people in heaven are basically very young, very beautiful, and they're all glowing like crazy. And they're all just drop dead gorgeous. All of them are drop dead gorgeous.
That's how I saw it too. And I always say, what did Jesus look like? I said, well, he's really handsome. He smiles a lot. He's very funny, and he likes to make jokes.
Yeah.
Sometimes he can be sarcastic.
Funny. People don't get it. Jesus is hysterically funny.
He's got great teeth too. He's very glowy, but he's very funny. I mean, he's like really quick-witted. Like, I'll ask him something, and he'll go, you already know that answer. Why are you asking me?
Yeah.
And then start laughing.
Yeah.
I mean, so he was like that way to you, personality-wise.
Yes. He's the most wonderful guy to hang out with.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think that he really wants to pour his spirit on everybody, and really for them to get to know him. But that's a personal choice, whatever they want to do. Well, let's see if I think that we, gosh, I mean, people just love you here. The questions that they're asking, I think you've described everything. I want people to know how to get a hold of you. And do you sell your paintings or prints of your paintings? Can you talk about that?
Lately I've been doing commissions, which I love doing. And so I talk with the people and come up with them, and then it takes a while for me to produce it. But the paintings on my web, I've got hundreds and hundreds of paintings. There's I don't know, 60 or 80 paintings on my website. My website's howardstorm.com, and it has a contact thing. And it's real funny because people will use the contact. I'd like to email Howard Storm. Well, duh, you just did. I mean, like, my staff reads. I wish I had my staff consists of my dog, and my dog.
Your dog.
Not very helpful with the emails, believe me. That's why he's not here on my lap, because if he were here, he would be monopolizing me,
Oh, that's so cute. Yeah, I know. I'm all about the animals. I got mine right beside me here.
Yeah.
Okay, so you also have you done prints yet of the work that you've done, or just originals?
I can have prints made as someone, because I don't give my, once people ask me how much one of my paintings, and when I tell them, it's like, oop.
Right.
But I'm not famous or anything, so it's not like we're talking about really big money. But.
Oh, no, but still, because I think some of those, I would love to have some of those, and I know some of you might as well. I have a huge Jesus wall up here. My husband's like, really? Can you, I said, I'm going to do a big picture of his head. You could please do. I mean, it's great, but I mean, really it's everywhere.
Yeah.
But I would love to have one of your prints. So look, you are
I can have a print made.
Oh, well, I'll email you and let you know, because I would hang it up and have this little wall. It looks like with angel wings.
Yeah.
But you are such a delight, and I love the fact you're so genuine and you engage in people with real time, just being yourself. And one of the things that I admire most about you, that I feel like we can learn from you, is that you don't mind being vulnerable and raw. And I think sometimes we try to self-edit. You know, we self-edit so we can clean up, you know.
I'm on my good behavior now. You should know me in real life.
Well, you did. The first time I heard you speak, you didn't mention that the evil influence people said that you had a good butt. So
Yeah.
I was like, boy, that's candid. But the thing is, just being in the moment and just whatever comes out. And we should, you know, just love ourselves enough, because we got to love other people, got to love ourselves, to just be ourselves. Because I don't know what people are afraid of, that you're not going to care for them or like them. I've never found that.
And you know what? I don't want to be a holy Joe. The last thing I want to be, I don't want to be a holy Joe. I don't want to be a self-righteous, prissy, you know, I'm better than you, or I want to be authentic. And the authentic me is real common man. I am a common man, no better than anybody, you know?
Right. I think that's the whole point, is that we're human. We do we try to do the best we can, but sometimes we say dumb stuff. We do dumb stuff. And then, and I think that's it. God just works with us, that he's, imperfect. He doesn't see us as imperfect, but absolutely. So, but I love the fact that to me, that's very allowing to people to say, look, just, you don't have to be perfect. Just be yourself. And then there you go. So
it took me months for my wife to teach me that I needed to put the lid down on the toilet. Months.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's that closing in that's really good, Howard. Look, thank you so much. And all of you, I mean, we can't get to everything. They do know how to get a hold of you, howardstorm.com. Everybody seemed to really love it and love you. Continue the good work, and to know you don't always get to see what you do, but just know there's so much love and support for you. Just being you and sharing your story, that is enough. You, as Jesus tells me, you are enough.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing the love. We give it back to you. Thank you for this time today.
Blessings to you all.
Blessings to you, Howard. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.